Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can create for yourself at home this gorgeous pear still life step by step. On the mic is my husband John.
Hello.
He is really helping me bring you this lesson today, but this lesson sort of has a backstory. Originally, I had recorded this as part of something called Acrylic April, which is a 30-day painting challenge that I do from April 1st to April 30th. But this year, because of health reasons, I had to push the challenge off until August. So I had this great lesson recorded, and it wasn't really going to make the thing to August, and we thought you guys would really love doing it because it's such a good lesson. So you might hear me talking about Acrylic April and other things that don't make a lot of sense, but that's the context. But step by step wise, it's still fantastic. You're going to love what you can do. I explain every technique, every color mix, everything I do to get this result so that you can get the same result at home. I go over the materials. If you check the description below, you can find more information like the materials, link to my website, more information. If you've never heard of Acrylic April, well, come by August 1st because that's when we're going to actually reboot the program, and it's going to be Acrylic August, and we'll be painting every day for 30 days. But until then, enjoy this last lesson from our Acrylic April vault. Come on, let's go. So to start today's fun project, we have an 8x8 surface. This is going to be a theme all month, an 8x8 surface. We've got the colors phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, quinacridone magenta, cad red medium, cad yellow medium, phthalo green, burnt sienna. And here I have ultramarine blue and quinacridone together so I can make some purple. And I have cad red and cad yellow because I'm going to make some orange, Mars black, and titanium white. So let's get up our first step, and I'm going to show you what you do first. So the first thing that I want to do is take an artist knife and mix up my secondary colors. So I'm going to come here and just mix together the quinacridone and the ultramarine blue, and that's going to give me a purple.
Just any old artist knife?
Any old artist knife. You can even do this with your brush. It's just hard to get the paint back out. So this is a way of like saving money by using the artist knife. So I'm just getting a nice purple. I'm going to be using a lot of that in this particular painting. Let me give this a little clean. You just wipe it with a towel. I'm going to just use my towel in my lap that I have, my lap towel. Rinse out and just wipe it off. And then I'm going to do the orange. The reason I was so particular about cleaning it is that there's enough contrast between purple and orange where they would gray each other out. And we're actually going to be leaning into that as we paint. And I'm making what's known as a middle orange. Not a middle earth, a middle orange. made a Lord of the Rings joke. I didn't say I made a good one, but I made one.
It's a good one.
It's hard to find that cross section of art and Middle Earth humor, you know.
It's true.
Yeah, feel free to share your best Middle Earth cross section to art jokes in the comments below. I'm sure by the end of April, we will all be a little funny anyways. Okay, so when I have those mixed in, I'm going to grab an angle brush. This is a 3/4 inch angle brush. You could do a 1 inch, you could do a 1/2 inch. If you do a 1/2 inch, I feel like that might be a little bit small and make it take longer on the canvas, but you can still absolutely get away with that. I'm going to pull out a little of my purple. It looks pretty good. And let's grab some yellow. So yellow and purple together make a kind of gray. Little bitty brown, little bit gray. And we're going to just do this all over the surface messy.
Ooh.
Just this, just all over the surface messy. This is like a colored ground. Every time I do Acrylic April, people write me like, can you tell me all the pre-painted colors ahead of time? You can see it kind of ranges from dark to light depending on how much yellow you mix. And it's really not that important. Definitely feel like you can paint the edges too. You know, you can go around the sides of the canvas, especially on these because the 30 canvases frame together so well. You go ahead and get that kind of like little water in there, a little more yellow over to my gray. It's just a grayed background, and it's a little bit darker than the final piece. And that's because we're starting with this substructure. A lot of the things that are hard in acrylic painting is knowing where the layers are. You got to know that ogres and onions and paintings come in layers. I'm working this back and forth. I'm not trying to make it neat. That's not why I'm working the canvas. I'm working the canvas like this because I want to make sure that the surface is covered with paint, because acrylic paint loves to stick to acrylic paint. Now, to do anything next, I've got to dry the canvas thoroughly. So let's dry our canvas thoroughly. Now, if you're painting along at home, you pause me and you dry your surface, and then you hit play on me, because through the magic of editing, you won't have to listen to my hair dryer, and I'm on your time. So that's a wonderful thing. So when we come back, I'll show you what you do next. So I've got a couple cool tools here, and I'm going to show you or introduce to you the gridding method of laying an object in. And it's actually pretty simple. I'm going to divide the canvas at every 2 inches. So it's 2, 4, and 6, going from the right to the left. In centimeters, it looks to be 5, 10, and just a little bit past 15 for even sequencing. I had to like check here and make sure that I had done it on the 6, not the 9. Because sometimes upside down and stuff, they'll look the same. I'm going to do vertical lines. They don't have to be like dark or anything, and you want to make sure that your painting is completely dry for the gridding process. You can also just use a traceable at this stage and skip the gridding process if you want. Now I'll come here to the middle, and I will do the same again. I will do a 2, a 4, and a 6. And come across here. Sometimes when you're learning how to draw, the gridding method helps you dip your toe into it. There's a lot of ways to get into drawing, and there isn't like a right or wrong. There's just many methods, and you find the one that works for you and lets you start someplace. So if it's tracing the image on the canvas, it's tracing the image on the canvas. If it's freehanding, it's freehanding. Or if it's gridding, it's gridding. Now I'm going to come here with my chalk, and very lightly I'm going to make a little line across this middle line. That was the 2, 4 at the 4 inch. Come up a bit and down, dip in, come across, round. It's okay to make car noises. And let's give our little pear bum bum. And come up here. So by only looking at where the line is entering and exiting this particular square, it helps me draw it easier. Now I'm going to come here and add my stem, which has a beautiful little curve on it. I like that very much. And then this fun leaf dynamic. There we go. So there's a little leaf. And I can sort of imply I know where there's a bit of a shadow going on here. But I'll be painting that in later. That's all you've got to do for that step, is either use the transfer method and trace it on, or use the grid method, draw it out, or freehand it, or even projection. There's like so many ways to get the traceable on the canvas. Never feel thwarted by the drawing process in the painting. We're going to paint over so much anyways, you'll very quickly realize, like, even if you use a traceable, it's definitely, you're still doing it just yourself as you go. All right, come back and we'll do what's next. So now I get to kind of lay in the background and the subjects, like what the pear is sitting on and what environment the pear is in. I'm going to come back to my underpainting color, and I'm going to add a lot of white. I'm going to come here and paint around the pear. At this line, though, the last 2 inches, I'm going to do a little darker. Sometimes I'll pick up a little more color. And just rub that around. It's okay that some of the underpainting is showing through. Sometimes I'll pick up more gray. And I'll have a slight purple cast to it. And that'll be dramatic with the pear because purple and yellow are contrasting colors. And they're very dramatic of each other. They have a dramatic relationship. They're always in the papers.
Gotta have that drama.
They do?
Gotta have it.
You gotta have that art drama.
That's right.
Art drama is great.
This is just a...
Real life drama is not as fun, but art drama is great.
But this is just that sort of, you gotta paint the background in part.
Yeah, we're just painting in this background. It's just a rough space that our pear exists in. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's really just about saying, hey, I'm here in the world, in this room where I live. That's what the pear is saying to you, if you're wondering. Like, what is the pear saying? What does the pear say? That's what it says.
Shh. Pear says, what does the pear say? It says, shh, I'm listening.
That's right. So I'm sometimes adding a little more purple, you can see, and then coming back with the white. But I'm trying to keep the overall value pretty light so that I can have some nice contrast kind of going on with the pear.
It's an interesting pear.
Just paint around the leaf. And come here, and I can always be a little tidier with this later, but I just want to paint in this little area.
Yeah.
Then down here, I'll have some of the white, but I will have way more of the color. Let's bring a little yellow over here so we can gray some more purple. Gray that purple. Coming up underneath here.
I think that's what happened to Grape Ape.
Happened to who?
Grape Ape. You know, the cartoon character?
Grape Ape.
He
must
got
have
gray.
run into
His purple got gray. He got old.
We laugh, but there could be some like crazy backstory actually what happened to that cartoon character. You got to research these things.
Yeah, I have no idea. It was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
There's a shocking amount of drama around cartoons these days.
I try not to be involved in cartoon drama. I keep it all to Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. They were dramatic and controversial enough.
I feel so. I agree. Now, I like that very much. That's just giving me lots of yummy still life vibes. I am going to tuck up, I think, just make sure I got a nice tuck under there. Something else I can do while I'm here. Now I'll get maybe a little more ultramarine blue there. See how I brought that over to the purple?
Mm-hmm.
And come under here right now. And I'm going to go ahead and put in my shadow. The shadow is that number one thing I see new painters forget. And it makes your pear not fly off into space.
Grounds gives it
grounds it to the ground. And you want it to ground to the ground, right? You want no flying pears. Now I want to paint flying pears.
You know, if you tape a pear to a wall, you could challenge the reigning banana master.
Yeah, I feel like we did a really good tutorial on how to tape a banana to a wall, so I'm going to say...
You gotta bring a pear.
I don't really feel like that's the
art banana game.
I don't really want to be at Art Basel. I'm going to be really honest. I want to go to Art Basel and see other artists who are exhibiting at Art Basel. All right, let's dry this, and when we come back, I'm going to show you what's next. All right, now for this next part, I'm going to use a number 8 Textura D brush. And you go, what is the brush? Well, this brush is kind of like a rounded blender, and it's kind of like a filbert. If you don't have this for this section, you could use a filbert. You can kind of see how they're similar in shape. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what you want is something that's going to give you these nice, wonderful long lines. But I really like the blendy part of this, so I'm going to do my D brush. And, you know, to toot my own horn, I do have those for sale in my store. But these are available internationally if you can't shop in my store or if you want to shop somewhere else. So you're covered in that. But I do have them if you like them. Or just use a filbert. All of that's really okay. All right, now I'm going to do an interesting thing here. I'm going to get a little bit of my white, and I haven't added any water to the brush, and I'm going to come here to the top of my hair and come around the side here and sort of just brush in this white dry brush. And you might be like, why dry brush? Well, we're going to create some very vibrant, luminous colors.
How luminous are they?
So luminous that I don't know what. How do you measure lumens?
In lumens.
That I don't know. You'll have to give us a lumen measurement.
Many
lumens.
It's like, I think that the current flashlights are up to a 50 11 billion if you look on Amazon, which is like the brightness of the sun. So I think they got their measurement off somehow.
And then come around this far side as well. Kind of brushing this in.
Normally, I believe it's a measurement of photovoltaic activity across a specific surface area, but
That's actually kind of awesome. Thank you for sharing that, actually.
I think that's what it is, but I don't have Google.
Dude, if he's wrong, fully tell us in the comments. But he's probably not.
Like how much light reflects off of or comes from a specific area. But
And I'm just brushing this around. This is going to, you'll notice that I've got a curve to my brush stroke here. See the curving? I'm not worried about getting the center fully filled in because this is going to be like, it's going to have its little pear blush and its little pear bum. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to rinse out. I like that. I like that a lot. And while this is drying, actually, let's call this a step and we'll dry it because if you try to do the next part and your paint isn't dry, but my paint is, you'll get a completely different result than me. So let's start this as another step where everybody's got a dry canvas. That way we're getting the same result because that's what we want.
Okay.
Though you don't have to copy me. Your pear is supposed to look like your pear, and my pear will look like my pear, and everybody's pear will look like their pear. But we'll all have pears. They just might be slightly different pears. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
I don't want to put pressure on you to be like an exacting copy machine because that's not the goal here at all. The goal is learning the techniques.
No pear pressure.
No pear. No pear pressure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Let's dry our canvases on that note. So I'm going to start with the blushing here, and I want to take a little bit of my quinacridone over to my orange. I can add cad red in if I need it. And I'm going to begin to come across here. And I want to just start adding this warmth of color. I'm going to curve it up there because I want to leave room for the stem.
Mm-hmm.
I might get a little bit of my red over to my orange. Back into that blushing.
Who's blushing?
We're blushing it. Just a nice little blush on the back end. And interestingly enough, I get a little green. Well, first I'll go and get some more yellow. And then I'm going to get a smidge of green. A little more yellow. Little smidge. Come under here. And now I'm using the back side of the brush. So when I'm wanting to like curve it, I use the front filbert side, but when I'm wanting to blend, I use the back side of the brush. If you have a filbert, you would just be using the edge to do this kind of dry brush blending. And we're just really making that transition to the green. Don't forget the little
transition to the green. That's
transitionally green. It's a hard transition.
It's like the Hulk.
Yes.
transitionally green.
Though gamma radiation is very bad for your food and your person. Don't, no gamma radiation for you.
Yeah, that's probably good advice.
I feel like that is. I'm not even a nuclear scientist, and I feel like saying don't play in gamma radiation
Just
is a.
don't stand in front of black holes.
I was never gonna.
That's a bad idea.
I'm rinsing out, and I'm gonna wipe off my brush,
Sort of, I guess, above or below a black hole would be more
and I'm gonna
accurate.
take a little bit of burnt
Relative.
sienna over to my green, wipe off my brush, and then take a lot of yellow over here. Find a very bright green. Now I can come around these edges. Bring it across here. You can see using the back side of the brush or the blending technique.
Yeah, it gets super green.
A little more green yellow. And I like to take little bits in here because, well, it would have that.
It would.
It would. And it's got a little bit all the way down to its little pear bum. So just use the edge to get that crispness, and then
Yep.
I'm going to use the blendy part to brush this up. Look at that going. Isn't that amazing that we just get there? All right, I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to put this brush to the side for a second. I want to dry everything. And when we come back, we're going to do the next step. So now I want to take my number 6 round. This is a number 6 Raphael sepia round. Just a nice pointed round. You grab whatever nice pointed round that you have. I'm going to grab a little bit of my brown and a little bit of my black together. Might even get a little bit of my phthalo blue in there. Graze it some. Just some place to start. And I'm going to come right here and add this shadow. And brush out this stem. Now I'll be coming up above that. Let's get a little more blue into this. I'm going to come right under the pear here. Just a little bit. And I can even kind of, see I'm wiggling it back and forth to sort of extend that shadow just a little. Over towards the left. Now, if you're wondering what my paint's on, that's on a wet palette, and that lets it's lidded, and so I can save my paint from one painting session to the next. I don't do that for the show because you guys deserve fresh paint every time we paint, but you may want to do that for yourself so that once you have a palette out, since we use the same colors from painting to painting to painting, this will let you really save money on your paint. I've done this a number of years now. I think we're going on 5 or 6. I'll have to really look at it for a second. I think we might be at 5, but we might be 6.
Oh, yeah. For
No, it's 5 for sure because we started in 2019.
Okay.
So that's 5, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah. So I don't teach math for a reason. I'm going to come here and make a little bit of my green again. It's looking pretty good. And I like to get a little orange involved. Get a little orange involved. And I'm going to come to the top of the little stem. and start to brush, just dry brushing it down. We have just a little bit of the dark going on there. From here. And work that. That was a little brown. That take the green over into the orange. I don't want to lose my shadow, and you'll notice that I'll mix that color right in again. Kind of create that little divot point. You want a little divot point in your pear. Sometimes you get a little divot point in the bums of the pear, and sometimes you don't. And now I'm thinking about mounds. I am mixing in a little bit of my green together again, and we're going to come down very delicately off the stem. And I'll go ahead and do a little burnt sienna yellow over here. You get some cad red into it to gray it out. And just brush in that little leaf. The shape and bend of the leaf I'm going to hit with green values later, but right now I just want to kind of paint in its overall shape. I might bring a little bit of this color through here. Light it up some. All right. That isn't too bad. That's looking pretty good. As you might be guessing, we're going to dry before we do the next step. So let's dry thoroughly and I'll come back and show you what's next. So I want to add a little more color into my background, and how I'm going to do that actually is with a little bit of my phthalo blue. I'm going to take a little bit of my phthalo blue and a little bit of my phthalo green. And that's going to make kind of a very light aqua. John's favorite color to color match on the show. Just his most favorite. I keep adding white. And come around here and very expressively. And what I mean by expressively is that I'm randomizing my brush strokes. All right, come through here. Bring that down. Come in here, go under the leaf. Now, if I have to, I can size my brush down if I'm not going to have enough control, but hopefully I can have enough to create this sort of expressive, energetic background. Just a little bit through there. Maybe a little bit through there. Even lighter. Changing direction in my brush. Maybe I brush down, I brush to the right, but I still leave a lot of the background in. I don't take away all the color I worked so hard to paint in. I use the corner of the brush sometimes to work around difficult angles. This type of background where you've got such layered painting is just really ideal for still life. I grab a little green and a little blue, darker color. Kind of work it around here. Kind of just making it interesting. Now I might switch over to my D brush just to have some control in the area around the base of the pear. I'll get back into my purple and yellow. Just painting it very random. I'm trying to be random over here, John.
I hear you on the randomness.
All right, now I want to dry everything. I want to dry everything, and when we come back, I will show you what you do next. Grabbing my D brush again, and I'm going back to the body of the pear to do some pear body work. This is what we do. I'm going to grab a little bit of my cad red and bring it over to my orange. And let's maybe even some yellow. Really brighten it up. Just touching through here. It's amazing how colorful pears are. If you've not really looked at one in the grocery store in a minute, they're super colorful. And so one of the reasons why I like them is the subject, because they do interesting things, interesting ways. And I get to use so many colors to talk about that. It's kind of exciting. Getting a little bit of my quinacridone up here. Pink it up. Pink up your pear. Just randomly touching the color in. We're just showing the pear the love and consideration that this fabulous fruit deserves. I'm going to wipe off my brush here, and I'm going to get some very bright green. And I'm going to get that by just adding yellow to my previous green. And I'm going to come here and kind of add a few highlights, and then leave some dark. And get a lot more yellow. Coming back in with that yellow green. It's okay to be relaxed with it and think about it. And get back into my orange, and I mix the green into that orange, and that gives me kind of a half tone, which is really nice. I'm going to rinse out. Put my brush to the side. I'm going to get into my very lightest green, and I'm going to use my round brush. This is my number 6 sepia again. And I'm going to add a little white to the mix now. Now it's serious. Come to the top of that pear along the stem. Right down that side. Get a little bit of the veining on it. Maybe a little greener than that. See, I'll work back into my green where I need to. I'm just pulling that back on the leaf. There we go. That's looking pretty darn good. Rinse out a little bit. And I'm going to get a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my black. And it's making a different type of gray, different type of shadow. Get just a little tip here on there. I come underneath here. Rinse out. Then I'm going to take my brush again and my white, green, yellow. That was a little wet. And you'll know it's a little wet when you get what's called foaming on your palette. If I have too much water in my brush, when I mix it, it'll bubble a little bit. Add a little bit of a highlight over here. Okay. Now I'm going to want to dry before I add the final touches. So when we come back, I'll show you what's next. So now this is where I'm going to get the satin glazing liquid out. I'm going to put a little bit on my palette. Well, I'm going to open the bottle and then put a little bit on my palette. I don't need very much for this painting. If you don't have this, you can thin your paint with water and glaze it. You'll just have to let it dry extra, and it may have binding issues. That's why I bother to use a glazing liquid, and I, again, highly, highly, highly recommend it. Now I'm going to take a little of my purple over here to the side, mixing that in. You might want it to be a little more burgundy. I'm going to add some more magenta and wipe it off. This is about a thin layer of color. And come to the bottom. And I'm going to just very carefully add a glaze of color going up. And that's going to create some shape and dimensionality. And coming down from the stem. using the not approved finger method. Just smudging or blending it out. If you don't want to touch the paint, which I highly recommend, even though I do, I would use rubber gloves. From there, I want to get a little of my white. Mix it over to my green yellow. And a like white highlight. Maybe a little bit right there, but I'll clean that up. It's too much. It's too much. I want it a little bit, but that's too much. So I just rinse the brush off, and then I come back and I erase the extra, leaving that nice little highlight that's very chill. And I can take the glazing liquid with this as well. Kind of blend that little reflection. Now, I've got some cadmium here, and that's real cadmium, so I will wash my hands after I paint and consider my life choices. All right. You just play with that until you have the pair that makes you happy, right? That's what you're looking for, is the happy pair. The happiest pair that you can have. Then back into my dark purple. Maybe this time I add a little bit of blue to it. And come to the bottom. And blend out a nice little thoughtful little shadow. Just a great way to ground a pair to the ground. When you're all done, you're going to want to get a detail brush. I'm going to add a little white, and I'm going to take my glazing liquid because it can improve the flow of paint too. So if you're having trouble getting good lines and things, this can really, really help. This helps glaze, slows down the drying time of your paint, and improves the flow of the paint off of your brush. Satin Glazing Liquid by Golden Artist Colors. And it's listed in the description.
That was a fun pair.
It's a really fun pair, right? And there's just so many more to come. There's 30 days of fun.
So many pairs.
So many. Well, one, we painted pairs a few times on the channel.
Yeah. There's been a pair of pairs.
There's been a few pairs. But I feel like I've owed everybody this particular pair for a second. I've given you abstract pairs. I've given you pair challenges. But now we just sat and painted a proper pair, which we've really needed to do. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to tell you what's next. So that was a lot of fun, guys. I hope you enjoyed this lost pair, the lost episode from Acrylic April that we're bringing back to you. I cannot wait to see your versions of this. It's been really great to spend the day with you. If you'd like to share your results with me, remember I've got a Facebook group, the Art Sherpa Official, that's super, super curated, where you can share your paintings. And you can also share this in the Acrylic April group because it was originally intended as an Acrylic April lesson. If you like this, be sure and hit the subscribe button and stay tuned because in August, it's going to be daily drops like this one every day because nothing makes you a better painter than painting more. I really believe that in my heart. To you guys who have been so kind about me having to push Acrylic April to this August, I hope that you enjoyed today's lesson. And I just want to tell you again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so understanding about this. I want you guys to be good to yourselves. Be good to each other, and I will see you at an easel really, really soon. Bye-bye.